Hello and welcome to another video training session. So this video is going to be about processing intake certification workflows. This is the third video in this series of videos about this particular process. Um, so it is going to be about this step right here. The family completes the intake workflow in RentCafe. So the last video we completed this step. We are now ready to take the next step. This step, the previous step, should have notified the family that they need to complete the certification process in RentCafe. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to log in to RentCafe here. And so when you go to the RentCafe portal, you're going to land on a page that looks like this. This is actually a test site. But you're going to land on the home page at the RentCafe. You're going to click on the applicant login. And then we are going to log in as Mr. Tony Stark. He is our test record. So we have his account ready to go here. It's set up. The next step would be to click on certifications because the letter that we received via email should have alerted him to go into RentCafe, log in, and then click on the certification button. And this should have the first page of the intake certification process, and it does. So here it is. So the first step here is select your preferred language. So at any rate, we have different parts of the screen here. We have on the left side, we have all the steps uh, that it takes to complete and then submit the intake certification or application. This is your, up here it says the application process. That is your percentage of doneness, I would say, to of the entire process of the application to be completed online. And this right here is like your work area where you go ahead and um, complete the tasks of this particular process. Usually down here, you've got buttons that allow you to navigate through the entire process. As well as this here, you should be able to, as you complete each section, you should be able to move forward and backward to each completed session. But anyway, let's go ahead and move forward here. We're going to select the preferred language, and we'll click Next. So we selected English, or English was the default, so we click Next. So here we have the welcome page, which basically just is just another starting page. And it welcomes you to the intake certification. So let's go ahead and click Next, or we can click on Back to go to the previous step. But here we're just going to go Next. Okay, the first thing it wants from us is to enter the current address. So you have an option here to say, oh, I don't have an address, but we do have an address, a test address in mind. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So we'll click on Add Address, and we'll put in an address. Okay, here we've completed the address information form. So we can either cancel it or save it. We want to save the information to the application. So here on the page here, as you can see in the address grid, we have our address here. So you can either edit it again if you like, or you can delete it and start over. You can add more addresses. This looks fine, so we're gonna go ahead and click on the next button, go to the next step, which is enter household member details. Okay, so we can either add a household member. We're going to need to review and confirm this household member that exists now. This basically populated from Yardi, so it's required that you review and confirm your information as the head of house. And then once you do that, you should be able to move on to the next step. And also you can add other household members if you see fit. All right, so let me go ahead and add another household member. And up will pop the tell us about household members form. So I'm going to go ahead and fill out this information. Okay, so I went ahead and filled out the information for this test record for the second household member. Okay. So the next thing to do would be to either save or cancel. I'm going to go ahead and save the information to the household. And so here we have the second household member, Pepper Stark. Okay, and remember we said we were going to need to review and confirm the head of house as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. So I looked it over. Looks like everything is in order. I'm going to go ahead and click on the save button, and it looks okay. So we are good to go to the next step. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll click on the next button. We'll go to the next step. Okay, here emergency contact. Okay, here we have a friend, Nick Fury. So we can go ahead and hit the edit button to see if everything is in order, and it looks good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and say cancel because it looks fine. We'll just leave it like that. Or we can delete this emergency contact record, but it's fine. So I think we're all ready to go and get to the next step. So let's do that. Click on the next button. Okay, so now we have the income step initiated. So what we need to do here is answer yes or no to all of these questions here. So just for demo purposes, I'm going to go ahead and just click on yes to a couple of items, but no more than a couple because we kind of want to keep these videos short. So if we say yes to a couple of these items, we're going to get some follow-up questions and some follow-up forms or pages that will help the system understand more about these items that I've chosen. So here I've chosen the employed, the question saying yes, answering yes to a family member being currently employed. So we'll get some follow-up questions about that. Here I also clicked, I said yes to is any of your family self-employed? So there's going to be more questions regarding that later on in the application. So I'm going to go ahead and say no to the rest of these, and then we will move forward. Okay, so I completed that. Let's go on to the next step. We'll click on next. Okay, so the next step here is actually the next steps. We can see that here in the left window pane over here. So the next thing we will have to complete is employment, self-employment, and other income. So we're starting with employment income. Let's go ahead and add a fictitious job here. So we'll click on that. It will open up a tell us about employment form, and we'll have to complete this particular form so the system knows about the particular job that we are talking about. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so I have completed the tell us about your employment form. So all the fields are populated, so we are ready to click on the save button and save the information to the application. So here we have one family member in the employment income grid. So this is fine. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next step, and that's going to be self-employment. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a self-employment income. We'll click on that button there, and then we will fill out this form, and that is the Tell Us About Self-Employment form. Okay, so I'll fill it out. Okay, so here we've filled out the Tell Us About Self-Employment form, and we're ready to click on the Save button to save it to the application. So we've updated the grid here with one family member. And so we are ready to move on to the next step, and that is going to be other income. Okay, so this is the other income step where you are going to add other income to each source of family income not already included. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll click on the Add Other Income button, and we'll fill out the next form. Okay, so here we've filled out the form. So let's go ahead and click on the Save button and save this other income to the application. And here we have it in the other income grid. So let's go ahead and move on to the next step, and that should be assets. Okay, here we've got some lead questions. So, so the system knows what other follow-up questions to ask us. So I am going to go ahead and fill out this part of the application. So here we go. Okay, so here I have said yes or no to all of the lead questions regarding assets. So I expect to get some more follow-up questions regarding a checking and savings account and also cash not held in a bank, because I've said yes to both of those items. Everything else is no. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the next button and see what comes up. And it looks like the next steps are regarding bank accounts and cash. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on the Add Bank Account so that I can let the system know about the bank accounts that I have. So I'll just fill out the Tell Us About Bank Accounts form. Okay, so I've filled out the form and I'm ready to save this information. So I'll click on the Save button. Okay, so we now have one entry here in our bank account grid. So that's what I want to see. So let's go to the next step. And we have cash not in the bank. So I'll click on the Add Cash button and we'll fill out the Tell Us About Cash form. Okay, so I'll do that. Okay, so I've gone ahead and filled out the form. So I'm going to go ahead and save the information. So once we do that, it should populate the table here and we are ready to move on. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the next button and we should get to the expenses lead questions. So I'm going to go ahead and answer these. I'm just going to go ahead and click no to all these just for the purposes of this demonstration. So we can go ahead and move on and we'll click on the next button. Okay, the next step here is out-of-pocket medical expenses. Okay, so here we are certifying that certification of no out-of-pocket medical expenses. Okay, so here's the question here. At the present time, none of my family members have any outgoing medical expenses that we have to pay for out of pocket as defined above. Okay, so we're just going to say, yes, none of my family members have any outgoing medical expenses that we have to pay for. Okay, and it is defined above here. Medical deduction expenses. Anticipated medical expenses are allowable for all household members when the head or spouse is at least 62 years of age, disabled or handicapped. These expenses must not be reimbursed by an outside source. and that's it. So when we say yes, we are saying at the present time, none of my family members have any outgoing medical expenses that we have to pay for. Okay. So I'm just going to say yes to that and click on next. Okay. And that basically brings us to the final review and submission. Okay. And we have all these different sections underneath that category here, the final review and submission. So let's go ahead and click next. We're not done yet. Okay. So here we have the summary step. So what we need to do is go through each one of these items here, each one of these tabs from previous steps and ensure that uh, everything is correct and everything is what it should be. So here with under the members tab, we have to make sure that all these items are correct. We can either edit or delete the particular household member here. Let's go to the income, make sure and review all the items under income. Again, we can either edit or delete each item within the income grid. We can even add some income. Okay, we can look at assets and make sure that this is all correct. And we can click on expenses. Remember, we said we had no expenses, so there are no expenses that have been added to the expenses tab. So let's just say everything looks good and we're ready to move on. We need to check this box where it says, I hereby certify that the information I provided above is true and correct to the best of my knowledge. I understand that a false statement may disqualify me for benefits. So I'll go ahead and click on the next button. Okay, and here we have the error check step. So here, this is where we resolve any corrective, we have to come in here and resolve any errors that we have that the system found within our application thus far. So the error is described here in the left column, and the right column will give you corrective actions. So it looks like we don't have any errors, but we do have is that the system wants us to confirm everything that we had put in and entered so far. It says, please confirm that all incomes, assets, and expenses have been entered for all household members. So if we click on confirm, we're saying, yes, we're confirming that we put everything in to the best of our knowledge. So I'm going to go ahead and click on confirm. If we had any errors, it should tell us the error in the left column, and it should give us the corrective actions in the right column. Right now we don't have any errors. It just wants us to click on the confirm button to confirm that everything we have in there regarding income, assets, and expenses is correct. So I'm going to go ahead and confirm that. Once I hit the confirm button, it looks like now that it's saying, okay, we didn't find any errors, so we should be good to go to the next step. You're going to want the screen to look like this so it doesn't, so that you have resolved, any and all errors. You want your screen to look like this. Okay, so you can go to the next step. And we have the documents step. So let's go ahead and let's finish this step up. So what we want to do is we just have a grid here with a bunch of items, requested items that we want to provide to the system and add to the application. So for instance here, Pepper Stark, we want to upload any necessary documents. Same thing here for Tony Stark. We also need to provide any cash proof of or verification of cash income or assets Here we have Tony Stark's Wells Fargo account. So what we want to do is upload bank statements so we can verify that we have um, entered in the correct information under bank statements, which should be under assets. Here, the same thing, cash. We want to upload anything that verifies anything about this cash entry that we entered in previously. Here under Stark Industries, we want to upload anything regarding or to verify the self-employed Stark Industries. And for Pepper, we need to provide 3 paycheck stubs that would verify her employment. And then you've got optional scan other household documents. That would be for basically any other documents that you want to provide. So I'm going to go ahead and do this first one, and then we'll see how that goes. So what we want to do is here, we want to upload a document from our computer. I'm going to go ahead and just select a document, and then we'll upload it. Okay. So it looks like we uploaded that document. So let's go ahead and look at it if you want to by clicking on the view button. So this is just, that document was basically the American flag. It was just an image document. It had just been renamed to document 1, but that is what the particular file is. So I'm just going to go ahead and close that out. So you saw how that works. So everything is going to be exactly the same way for each of these items within the grid. So I'm going to go ahead and upload several documents. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so here I've updated my grid. We've uploaded all of our requested documents. Okay, so I'm ready to move on. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the next button. Okay, and here the next step, it's a request for an extension. So if I wanted to request for an extension to complete this intake application process, I can do so here. But I'm going to go ahead and just say, no, I don't need an extension. And I will click on the next button. Okay, so the next step should be sign and submit. And here, this is where the system compiled some required forms to sign, as well as some summary documents that were compiled. It's coming from all the answers that, I'm sorry, all the questions that were answered. It went ahead and took a look at all those items within our process and generated some summary documents that need to be electronically signed, as well as added some required forms for the intake process. So we can go ahead and digitally sign them by clicking on the click here to sign button. So this particular item here would be to sign off for the household documents for Tony Stark to sign. Let's go ahead and click on this so we can go ahead and move forward with that. Okay, so the first thing that happens here is the disclosures and consent document comes up. So you can agree to continue or disagree. I'm going to go ahead to agree and continue to move forward in the process. And then the next step would be to create your digital signature. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, here we have our digital signatures. And I'm going to go ahead and click on Save and Continue. Okay, and here we have all of our summary documents as well as other required forms. I'm going to go ahead and click on the plus button here so that we can see it better. Enlarge our images. Okay, so these are basically just the intake summary. These are some of the questions that we answered, Again, more questions. We have bank accounts and cash here. That would be our assets. We have expenses. We have no expenses. Okay. So here we have our first signature and date fields that we will need to electronically sign. So I'm going to go ahead and click on those two items, and then we will look for the next fields to sign. So here we have the authorization for the release of information. This is a HUD form with a HUD 9886. So we need to digitally sign that document. Here we have the debts owed to public housing agencies and terminations form. We'll need to sign that. And we have EIV, admission EIV screening forms. We have more forms here. We'll just click on that so that we can sign it. More forms. We're just going to go ahead and go through the entire document and digitally sign everything. Okay, so we went ahead and signed the entire document. As you can see here, all the check boxes are there for all the required places where it needed the signature. So the last thing I need to do is click on the Sign and Complete button to complete that. And once we do that, it should update our progress here. So let's wait for that. Oh, yep, so it said Sign and Complete for this first set of documents. So you saw how that went, so I'm going to go ahead and complete the rest of this particular grid and sign off on all these documents. So I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so I've just signed my last electronic packet. So the system should be saving that information. Actually, I need to click on that button to go ahead and do that. So it should be saving that information. Okay, and it should update my web page there of the final step. And let's wait for it. Okay, so it finally updated that sign and submit page, and it says you have successfully submitted your intake certification for every line item here, meaning all of the electronic packets. We've signed them, so we are done and completed signing all of these items in the table. So our work here is finished. So this big checkbox here says that we have signed all required documents and we submitted our application basically. Okay. So this basically is the end of what we need to do to get our application to the caseworker or to Southern Nevada Regional Housing Authority. So we are done here. The caseworker is gonna review this and let us know if there is something missing or if there is more work that needs to be done, or if it's complete. They're just gonna send this information to update our internal systems, which is our Yardi system, and that would pretty much almost complete the entire process. And that would be it. So I'm going to go ahead and close out this video and show you the next step in the entire process. So thanks for watching. Have a good one.